Howdy everybody, Rocket here, and as you can see I'm not on trail, and I wanted to just do a quick, really succinct to the point explanation video of why we got off the PCT 2,000 miles into our journey. Let's get started, let's get real, let's talk about it, let's go through this. So when Corey and I initially started the Pacific Crest Trail, we knew that we had about 135 days to complete the trail. Corey had a work contract that he had to complete that was non-negotiable at the first week of August. So we assumed that we would be able to get through the trail in 120 to 130 days. We were definitely on track to do that. As you saw in my other videos, we were flying through the desert. We did really well through the Sierras. We continued on, we were pushing hard, we were doing our very best. We were enjoying those miles. It didn't feel pressured or tiring or like we had a deadline. At that point, we were just making the miles we wanted to. We were enjoying every step of the way. And then we hit the late season snow in California and just north of the Sierras. And that really started pushing us back, but we kept pushing. We were doing really well. Everything was going to plan. We were still making our way. And then we got to Oregon and we started hitting more snow. And we knew that the snow in Washington was not set to melt in our allotted time frame. But we were still hopeful. We were still planning on finishing the trail and pushing through, and we thought we could do it before the end of July. And then we kept getting reports from Washington that the snow was not melting, the snow in northern Oregon was not melting, and as you saw, that kind of pushed us back even further. So by this point in the trail, we knew that we were not going to make Corey's deadline, that he was going to have to go back east to work for his contract, for his work contract. He is a chainsaw wood carving artist, so he does different contracts where he goes to fairs and he does like carving shows. So he's very talented, and these are things he's been doing for years, and it wasn't right for me to ask him to get rid of all these contracts because he already canceled all the ones in July. So we knew he was going to have to leave for about, So we knew he was going to have to leave for about 10 days. And then he was going to initially plan to come back to the trail and pick up where I was. And then when we arrived to Crater Lake, Corey got another secondary contract that was going to add on another week of him being back east for another contract. So he did accept that contract. And at that point, Corey decided that he would not be coming back to the Pacific Crest Trail because by the time he would be done with the second contract, chances are we would be done with the trail. So then I had to decide what I was going to do. Was I going to stay out on trail and finish the trail without Corey? Initially, yes. So we had made the decision together that I would continue on the trail, finish the last 400 to 500 miles on my own, and then when Corey and I wanted to, we would come back out and finish the trail for him. So I had made the decision that I was going to keep going. And then I started having some bladder symptom flare-ups. So I'll quickly go over, for most of you that don't know, in October I started developing bladder symptoms, and it took me 4 months to get into the VA. And finally when I did, I was referred to a specialist, and when I went to the urologist and was given a cystoscopy, which they put a camera into your bladder and look around for inflammation, and I was referred to a couple other specialists. By the time I saw the urologist, we were 3 days out from leaving for the Pacific Crest Trail. And also by that point, my bladder symptoms had really started to decrease. And I assumed getting out, moving my body in a healthy, motivated way would help. And it did for most of the trail. For 3.5 months of the trail, I had almost no symptoms, where I just have a little bit of tenderness when peeing and just some bladder pain. But other than that, it was totally manageable. I was off all of my medications, off all of my bladder pain medications, and everything was fine. And then when we woke up at Crater Lake, I was in excruciating pain. And so for the next 2 weeks, I was trying to manage all of that pain with over-the-counter remedies, with different herbal supplements, and with just super, super overhydrating. So one of the best things for my symptoms is just drinking a lot of water. And on trail, we don't always have access to a lot of water, so it made it a little more challenging. And then we went on the Oregon Coast Trail. I had access to water, I had access to healthy foods, good nutrition, low acidic foods, which every processed food that we were eating on trail has citric acid, which is not good for my bladder. And just the foods we were eating on trail was just making it worse. So to just wrap up, I have been unofficially kind of diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, which is just a random inflammation of the bladder caused by numerous things, and it's hard to actually pin down exactly what's causing the issues. The issue is very painful, very tender, the feeling of having to urinate, the frequency of having to urinate, actual tenderness and swelling in my bladder, and just as soon as I urinate, I feel like I'm gonna pee my pants again. So it's very uncomfortable, and having a pack sitting on it all day, also not very comfortable. So to wrap that up, bladder symptoms started at mile about 1900. And when we got back to the Pacific Crest Trail after our little vacation to the Oregon Coast Trail, my symptoms had started to subside. It was like every other day, good and bad, but manageable. And the day we got back on the PCT, we did a 30-mile day, or like a 28-mile day. And then the next morning we woke up and I was in excruciating pain. By far the worst it has felt, maybe ever. And I was constantly running off the trail to try to urinate. And about noon o'clock, I started urinating straight red blood. And generally, I wouldn't be too concerned, but I am in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. I am miles from Bend. I have no medical care, and we're doing 10-mile water carries. And I just did not have the capacity to put the trail first. I realized that at this point, my bladder is not going to get better. It's not going to get better on trail. And that really led me to the decision that it was time to give up on this dream of the Pacific Crest Trail, because there's nothing more important than my health. And that's something that I will stand on till forever. Mental health, physical health. You cannot live the life you want without being healthy. And for me, that was so much more important than finishing the last couple of weeks of the Pacific Crest Trail. And knowing that Corey was leaving and not coming back, it didn't feel right to finish the trail without him. And I realized that the dream of me finishing was just the thing that I had convinced myself that I needed to do in order to be valid. And then I realized that we hiked 2,000 miles of this trail, 150 of a different trail. We spent 4 months living raw, living in the wild, eating the junk food, climbing the mountains, glissading in the snow, laughing, crying through the bugs, through the sun, through the wind, through the cold, the little bit of snow. And we're happy with our decision. We had come so far, we were so close, but yet we were just far enough away that it didn't seem safe or right for me to just continue on. I'm making all of those secondary appointments, all of the specialist referrals that I was given initially, and hopefully by changing diet, overhydrating, and just maintaining a lot of physical health by eating fresh, good food, that hopefully my symptoms will start to subside here soon. So I don't want to really drag this video on too long, because once you hear that I've quit, that's pretty much it. But I just wanted to remind you that if you do have something negative to say about whether or not Corey or I have the ability or can do something, this was both of our second and third through hikes. So we know what we're capable of, but we also know that sometimes it's not worth pushing yourself and hurting yourself if you're not going to enjoy the outcome. And I just want to ask of you to remember that there are real life people on this side of the screen, that we're still existing in our own real reality with real emotions. And just because we choose to share our lives and our content with you, we just ask that you take it with kindness and gentleness and not bitterness and anger, because there's so much of that already. Every day we have to wake up and choose not to bring negativity to our friends, neighbors, and also to those that we see on social media. So I just want to thank you all for your kind words, for all of the support you've given us over these last 4 months, and in just the last 3 years that I started sharing my journey with everybody on this platform. Just try to remember to be kind, not just to me, but to everyone that you cross, because we're all fighting our own battles. And although I may look totally fine, every day I'm waking up struggling physically to live just a normal life, let alone this extraordinary life through hiking. So I don't know what this channel is going to look like. Hopefully I will find some new content. I have a lot of things that I'm really excited to get into now that I've come off trail, and I believe that we are moving our lives into a different direction, and we are moving our lives into a way that is more sustainable and healthy and happy for us, that doesn't require giving up our normal lives, our friends, our family, our work, other things we're passionate about for a 4-month hiking trip. I don't put words in my mouth, because I do think you'll see us again on trail, but it's just not something that right now we're going to be focusing on. I think we've really enjoyed our time on the PCT, but it re-solidified that there are so many other things that we want to do. But that being said, if you have a desire to follow some amazing hikers, I want to implore you to follow Sam and Mariah. I will put their YouTube link in the bio, so go down, follow Sam and Mariah. They are posting videos real time. They're so enjoyable. They're the nicest people. And if you want to get your last 500 miles of the PCT, go follow them. And also my friends Lila and Cal, they are two amazing humans, and Cal is set to finish their Triple Crown as the first trans Triple Crowner known yet, and Lila is not far behind Cal. So I will link them here in the show notes. Thank y'all so much for your support, for your love. You are the reason why I want to share content, why I want to share my life, and I hope we can find a middle ground, something interesting that we can all come together, and hopefully this isn't the last you'll see. Of course, I always come back. You can't get rid of me that easily, YouTube. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and Corey's heart. Thank you for embracing us, for loving us, calling out our bullshit, and for just bringing such a energy to my life that makes me want to continually be more vulnerable and more open and share more. So guys, that is all for now. I am sweating my butt off here in Human, North Carolina. As you can hear the locusts and the crickets and just all the humidity. So take care, guys. Stay tuned, there will be more in the future. I'm so very appreciative and thankful of all the support and love. And this is Rocket, signing off for now.